When we started the Whale Center in Langley, we really didn't know what we were doing. We'd never done it before, and we had no budget. We just had a kind of an old derelict building with about a dozen different rooms that we were sharing with another group, and we just had to start from scratch. And look where we've come. The Langley Whale Center is beautiful. It is a happy place. There is so much to see and do, and you can get lots of good stuff and books, and everything is just so wonderful with the listening booth and the children's room. It's all just so fantastic, and I am so happy, thrilled, and proud of it. Thank you, everyone who has made this happen. I'm talking lots of folks, and you know who you are. Happy birthday, Langley Whale Center.
Hi, I'm Marie Lincoln. I have the chocolate flower farm in Langley, and the idea and vision for the Langley Whale Center started with the conversation that Susan Britta and I had outside the Clyde Theater after the movie Blackfish aired about, it was during Django Fest in 2014, so that would have been around September 20th, 2014. And Susan and I were chatting outside about my experience of viewing a capture of the orcas when I was a school child. I was probably 9 when Hugo was captured in Vaughan Inlet down in Mason County where I grew up. And so we were chatting about that, and Howard was doing a Q&A outside of the Clyde, and he said we were too loud, so we had to move down the sidewalk a bit, and we moved down in front of the old Mike's place, which is next to the Clyde. And I was talking to Susan, and I looked at Mike's place, and I said, wouldn't it be great if we could have, like, this building, which was in foreclosure, owned by the bank, if we could have this building and have it be a whale center, and then movies like Blackfish and The Cove and Under the Salish Sea could all be viewed. It could be an education center. It could be a place where the Orca Network could have a headquarters. And we were chatting about that, and she thought it was a great idea. And we continued our conversation. After Howard finished, we went up to Otten Murphy and sat around and talked, and everybody thought it was a great idea. So that kind of was the beginning. The next day I was out for a run, and I was down at the marina, and I ran into Paul Shell, and we were talking about someone needed to approach the bank who owned that building to see if they would be so generous as to donate it to the Whale Center. And Paul was all in. He thought that was great, and he was going to participate with us. So that next day, or the day after, I ran into Janet Plouffe in Langley and told her the idea, and she also was super excited. And she's Langley Main Street. And so that's how it started. After that, those ideas were shared. I stepped away, and the implementation began with Janet, I believe, went to the bank to talk with them about it. And then Fred Lindahl, who was out of the country at the time, when he returned, he jumped in and began implementation. And so that's my side of the story of how the Whale Center began. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Susan Britta, co-founder and executive director of Orca Network. We started the Langley Whale Center sort of like we start many of our programs, almost accidentally, or opportunities just sort of present themselves and ideas come up, and we think, wow, that's a great idea, let's do it. And they just happen thanks to the hearts and hands and efforts of many community members and volunteers, and now many wonderful staff. When we started the Whale Center, we had no staff. It was just Howard and myself. And things had just started really getting busy for us, and Orca Network was growing. Blackfish was just hitting the movie screens and CNN, and the interest in orcas, both in captivity and the wild, was really picking up. And I remember Fred Lindahl coming to us and saying, there's people in Langley, we would really love to have a whale center here. And I remember Marie Lincoln from Chocolate Flower Farm coming in, talking to us when Blackfish was playing, and standing out on the street having a great conversation with her about how wonderful it would be to have a whale center. And we're like, sure. And all of a sudden it was happening, and we had a building, and working with the Langley Main Street folks and our volunteers and our great board members, with our very small board then, Jill Hine and Sandy Dupernell and Dave Anderson and Fred Lundell, and we're just, we just did it. And like many things, whether it be a whale skeleton on the beach that we decide, let's put it together, whether we knew what we were doing or not, we just said, let's do it, and we did it. And from our humble beginnings in a very, very leaky building, moving on to the next much more expensive building that also leaked, to our current building that we just love and have been so happy being in, where we have lots more room, and have added so many wonderful exhibits. It has always been what we all call our happy place, because it's the one place where all of our programs are showcased. So many of the things we do are either virtual, online, or out on the shore, people watching whales wherever they are. The stranding network are, where things are stranding, or seal pups, or our elephant seals happening wherever they happen on the beach. Our Lolita program for Toki Tai, that orca in Miami, who we got so close to bringing home, that was happening worldwide, and that is still happening even after she passed away. But all of those things were so scattered. We didn't have a home. And with the Langley Whale Center, we have a home. And it's so wonderful to be able to walk in there and learn about all of our programs. And the other thing I love about the Whale Center is it's a place where people can be walking by and not know anything about whales, or have any intention of learning about whales, or think they even cared about whales or marine mammals, and maybe something catches their eye, or they think, oh, this looks like a cool gift shop, or wow, what is that skeleton in the window, or that big skull, and decide to take a peek and walk in the door and be greeted by our wonderful volunteers or staff, and enter this world where they're changed, and they walk out becoming an advocate for southern residents, or for gray whales, or for whatever marine mammal that they fell in love with during their stay at the Whale Center, when they learned about all kinds of things that they had no idea they were going to learn about. And to me, that is one of the greatest values of the Whale Center, that we can reach those people who we wouldn't reach otherwise, because we're just there for anyone to walk in the door. And we've been able to keep it free of charge, which I really love, because we are accessible to all. And, for families who can't afford to go somewhere that charges admission, I think it's a wonderful thing. They can take an outing. They can get to Whidbey Island via a bridge without even having to pay for a ferry, and come and have a wonderful day at the Whale Center, and maybe even see whales from shore, since we have so many whales around Whidbey year round. So I just love that we have this, and how much it's grown. Like I say, when we first started, we had no idea. We just said, yes, let's do it. And I remember like January, we got our lease, and we were going to open March 1st, and we were getting ready for a Baja trip, and we we suddenly had, a couple months to get ready, and we're like, oh, we need to make a whale center out of these rooms, and just making it happen. And Howard working on the displays, and Sandy and Jill helping out, and all our volunteers and board members. And Sandy Dupernell, she was so excited because she had her suitcase full of skeletal specimens that she and Matt Clope and our stranding network had collected over the years from our stranding network when we'd done necropsies on dead stranded animals. And we used them for classroom presentations and events, but to have a permanent home where we could put them on display and have people walk in every day and learn from them. She was just ecstatic. And she really, being the scientist among us, really did a great job of putting together beautiful displays of our specimens. And Fred went out and found wonderful display cases that we still have today that have been moved from building to building to building. And she put together wonderful skeletal specimens of all kinds. And then I remember the very first skeleton that we put together, and Sandy and Sherry and Kathy Fritz and Jill and our whole stranding crew and Whale Center crew put together Maxine the harbor porpoise, who is proudly hanging in the Whale Center. All our other skeletal reconstructions are out at the Coopville Wharf, but finally we had a home for our own skeletal display. And we have another one coming. I will not give any spoil alert, but it's going to be much bigger. That's all I'll say, but stay tuned for that. So that's wonderful. And Sandy loved talking to people at the Whale Center, and she could talk about anything and everything. She was so intelligent and knew so much about all the marine mammals, and especially loved talking about the stranding network. We sadly lost Sandy 2 years ago, but her heart and her passion and her spirit is in the center and will always be there and always be a part of it. And I love that the Whale Center brings to Langley, when we started, to me, I was so thrilled that Langley wanted us to have the Whale Center there. And I had really tried to get people convinced that we had whales on Whidbey for a long time, years back. And with the increase in whale sightings, and especially around Langley with the gray whales, it was getting much easier. And having Langley want to be Whale City has been so wonderful. And having Welcome the Whales and Whale Bell Park and Hope the gray whale sculpture, and having the Shoughton Gallery and the sculpture park between us, and being able to put our gray whale skull there, and just having so many great partnerships in the town has been a real blessing, and has made it so fun to be there. We're just really thrilled to be part of the community, and so thankful that they welcomed us there and wanted us to start a whale center, and we're so glad we did it. It's hard to believe it's 10 years already. Happy birthday, Langley Whale Center. The timing of the Whale Center was so perfect in that right after we started it, we had no staff, but my sister happened to move into, we had just moved into a much larger home than we needed that happened to have a downstairs apartment. And we always joked with her that, well, yeah, you can come and move into the lower half of our house if you'll help us run the Whale Center. And she had just left her job in Oak Harbor, and so was going to volunteer for us and help with our little Whale Center. And she had run shops of her own and done marketing and was the perfect person for this job. And we were so fortunate. And she just loved the Whale Center. And it was just one of those meant to be things, besides just being so happy having my sister involved in an Orca Network project, just having her talents and skills and experience. We suddenly, especially in our first little building, we started out like with a closet of a gift shop, and then we moved in some shelves and had a little bigger gift shop, and then Langley Main Street moved out of their office. We had a little bigger gift shop, and then when we moved in to our second building, we had a real gift shop, and then boy, we really needed her help, and so we ended up hiring her for real and her becoming staff. And by the time she left, 7 or 8 years later, she was working way more than she ever imagined, and really, it was really hard for her to leave, and she still volunteers, and the Whale Center is still Wendy's happy place. And Wendy is the one who made the Whale Center what it is. Many of her systems and her love and passion and dedication is what got it to the point it is today. Recruited so many loving volunteers. She set up a great volunteer system. Her way of appreciating the volunteers, doing trainings, just really being so organized, and setting up our gift shop and getting merchandise, working with local artists and authors, and doing events. She just did such a great job, and did all our marketing, still helps us out occasionally with that, and still volunteers and will always be a part of the Whale Center. And we are so thankful for her, because without her, we would have never made it through those first years. It just would not have happened. And without her hard work and all her knowledge of how to have a shop, basically, because it was our first facility, and we had never had a street front before, and she knew how to do things like window displays and to run a shop, and she did it all for us. She was great, and we are so thankful to have her help, and we still call on her all the time. Wendy, how did you do that? How should we do this? And we're all still very thankful for her help.
Hi, I'm Wendy Sines, and I had the honor of being the first manager for the Langley Whale Center. My sister Susan Berta and my brother-in-law Howard Garrett opened the center in March of 2014 with the help of Orca Network board members and volunteers, and then I came on board a couple months later. It was slow starting, and some days we didn't even have 10 people in, but we spent our time learning about whales so we would be better equipped to answer questions for visitors. We started doing more tours and more outreach, and I especially liked the school tours. And often a week or two after the kids had toured, they would bring their families in who had never been in the center before. And they became the tour guides and started correctly relaying all the information they had learned on their visit. And that's when I realized the impact that we were having. We moved to our second building and expanded our exhibits, added events, and had a nice little kids room. We expanded our gift shop to cover the expenses so we didn't have to charge admission. Susan and Howard's mission has always been to make that education accessible for everybody, so we didn't exclude anyone, and today is still free admission at the Whale Center. During these years, the gray whale season in the spring started seeing higher visitor numbers, as we had a couple of whale watch boats that worked out of Langley during the springtime. And we also had our wonderful Welcome the Whales event, my favorite Orca Network event, to welcome the gray whales. And it also is a free event, fun for all ages, parade and educational speakers, all kinds of fun things going on. After 2 years there, we moved to our current building, the third building, and it had an even bigger kids room. So the current Whale Center staff commissioned a beautiful mural that you feel like you're underwater swimming with the orcas, so make sure you check it out. The kids love it, and so do the adults. I met many wonderful and talented people my years at the Whale Center: musicians, authors, artists, educators, volunteers of all kinds of backgrounds, and I just appreciate the support that they had for the Whale Center and Orca Network. Our first assistant manager was Sherry Devlin, and she and I had many years together, lots of fun and hard work. And then when Sherry retired, we were fortunate to get Katie Watkins on board as assistant manager. And then when I retired a couple years after that, Katie agreed to be manager, and I was just thrilled to be leaving it in her capable hands. She has such a kind heart and passion for the whales, so I knew the center would continue to thrive. Katie and her team of volunteers and staff have continued to grow the center, add exhibits and events, and it's just wonderful to watch the center continue to thrive. In 2014, before COVID, our visitors' numbers had grown to 35,000 a year, a long way from that first year of low visitor numbers. I loved working weekends because that's when most of the kids came in, and they're so knowledgeable and excited to learn. And I especially liked watching them go to the Pat Price Ocean Listening booth. If you have time to read the information about Pat on the listening booth, that would be great. And the kids would touch the pictures on the screen, and they would hear a sound and a scientific explanation. And I always made sure to tell them to touch the school of fish, and you would get the sound and you would get the scientific explanation about air escaping. And then this sweet little voice of Pat's granddaughter would come on and say, "Yes, you've just heard fish farts." And the kids would crack up and bring everybody over to listen, as they just couldn't believe they had heard that. So I just want to thank Susan and Howie for that opportunity, and all the staff and volunteers and visitors and supporters that we had throughout the year that made the Whale Center successful. And I'm just some wonderful years there, and I'll remember you all. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Fred Lundahl. I'm a board member of Orca Network and a merchant here in Langley on First Street. And I've been involved in whales ever since I fell in love with Langley when we came to the Clyde Theater one day in February or March, no, it must have been in April 1999, and we started to watch a movie at the Clyde Theater, and the projectionist turned the film off and shouted out to the audience, "Whale break," and everybody got up and walked out of the theater and walked down to the sea right here where I'm standing to look at a gray whale feeding about 100 feet from shore. And everyone said, "What a wonderful thing," and they were oohing and eyeing, and we were just so gobsmacked about this. We fell in love with this town. And after about 3 or 4 minutes, the projectionist shouted out, "Break time over," and everybody went back in and they turned the movie on again. So I figured any city that, or town or village that turns off the movie so you can go look at whales right outside the movie theater is a place that I'd want to stay. So what we've done is we are moving and going around, and I'm going to show you what it looks like now, where we were right down here, and this is where the whale was. And now, all these years later, we have a whole bunch of things telling people that there are whales here, including a sign there that says "Whalecome," a bell that was a student Eagle Scout project for a child in town, and then Girl Scout project the next year for people to ring when they see a bell. And then Georgia Gerber, our favorite local sculptor, did the wishing whale, which is called Hope. And if you drop coins in the blowholes, you will hear and I don't have a coin right now, or I drop it, you'd hear a tinkle and a ring. So the first whale center that we found here in Langley was in this corner building that originally was a Sunoco gas station many years ago, and then the mayor's barbershop for a number of years. And it was pretty derelict, and we opened up a whale center there and shared the building with Langley Main Street that had just opened. And one of the most notable things about this very small space that we had here was that we were gifted or loaned a harpoon to put up in the place to show what happened to whales in the old days. And the problem, of course, was that's pretty a gross thing, and so we didn't know whether or not we should actually have a harpoon. So what we did is we put it up real high so that the kids didn't see it very much. And then what we did was go ahead and put a little blurb about it. And when we moved to the next building, because this building was condemned and now it's been rebuilt, but we moved out of this building into a much bigger space because we wanted to have a bigger shop. So we moved into the building next door on Anthus right here, and we were there for a year. And the problem with this building is that it's got a huge space, but it also had a huge rental cost. And upstairs was an Airbnb, and occasionally we would have water leaks in the Airbnb, or the shower would overflow, and that would mean that we would have water dripping down into the whale center. And so that wasn't very good. So then we looked about and said, well, where else could we find? And then we fell in with some very nice people called the Dahlgrens, and their dad had owned a whole bunch of property in town, including this building here, which is now our whale center, where it used to be a auto garage and a repair shop. And then later on it became a variety of things. It was a fabric shop that went out of business and became vacant and eligible to rent. So we talked to Barbara Dahlgren, who arranged and has been a wonderful landlord for us ever since. And this has become our iconic whale center. Each time we've moved 3 times now, we've moved closer to the whales. And now all we have to do is when we hear there's a whale around from the sighting network, we come out of this door and run down the street to the right there, where is the whale bell and the wishing whale and everything like that. So that's the history of the Whale Center in Langley.
Hi, my name is Sherry, and I volunteered at the Langley Whale Center in the very first building. I started volunteering there in August of 2014, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. And so one day I was walking in Langley. It was the Chuchokum Festival, and I got to the corner of 2nd and Anthus, and there was this big sign, and it said Lolita. And we had just moved from California, from a town called Lolita. So it caught my eye. And there was this lady standing out in front at a podium. And so I walked over and asked her what this was all about. And she explained the Whale Center. And I was looking for something to do. So I asked if they used volunteers. And she said, absolutely. So signed me up right then and there. That kind lady was Wendy, who is an amazing person, And she said, why don't you go inside? Howie's in there. You can meet Howie. I had no idea who Howie was, but I went inside the Whale Center, and there was a man in there talking to some people, and I knew it was Howie. He had kind eyes, just the best face. And I thought, yep, I want to be involved in this. I've met 2 people. They're both wonderful, kind people. And this looks like something I want to do. So I started volunteering, like I said, in August. And it was our first Whale Center. It was tiny. And it had a leaky roof. And so in the wintertime, we'd move pots around and put them under the raindrops to catch the drips. And let's see, we had very, very poor heating system. And so we wore our coats all day. And then if we had to go to the bathroom, we had to go outside and across the 2 streets to get to the Chamber of Commerce and use their restroom. But you know what? The people who worked there were great, and it was a wonderful thing. There were some exhibits, but nothing like what we have now. There were vertebrae and whale bones, and the small gift shop with some videos, which we still have, I think, and books. And I am not sure if we had t-shirts then, but we had one thing, and it was a map of the world, and we had push pins, and we'd let people put the pin in where they had come from. And so there was a little boy there, and he was probably about 5 years old, and I said, would you like to put a pin in? Where are you from? And he said, Nepal. And it's like, whoa, Nepal. Someone from Nepal found their way to Langley, to this little whale center, and they spent a long time in there learning about all kinds of things. And so it made me realize that, boy, this is something to be involved with. You can educate people from all over the world, and about whales, and about conservation, and about protecting these marine animals. So I was hooked. That was it. I was hooked. We moved to the 2nd building. I can't remember when, but that was a big improvement because we had heat, and we had a bathroom, and we could make coffee, and it was bigger. We had a bigger gift shop, which continued to expand into the next building. But let's see. And then when we moved to the 3rd building, that's where we are now, and that's just a great spot. And they've done so many wonderful things there. The murals in the children's room are awesome. They're just amazing. And I know it will continue to grow. I know that, it'll just keep getting better and better. One thing I forgot to say is Lolita turned out to be our beloved Toki, who passed away last year. But there were so many people involved with her and trying to bring her home. And it was such an amazing effort. But anyway, I just want to say happy anniversary, Langley Whale Center, and thank you so much for letting me be involved in this great project.
Hi, my name is Katie Watkins, and I am the current manager of the Langley Whale Center. but I haven't always been the manager. I started out as just a really excited mom who used to attend the youth events with my little guys when we first moved here in the tiny little building where it started. And we were kind of just hooked from then on. So as soon as I had enough time in my life and my work schedule, I started to volunteer at the Whale Center, and then got the really incredible opportunity to apply for the assistant manager position, and now have moved into manager. I'm so grateful to the people that came before me that set up just such a wonderful, happy place that everybody is always really happy to be at. I, of course, always love seeing little kids come in and be inspired, but I also, equally love meeting people who have seen whales for the first time or are just now being introduced to these wonderful creatures that we talk about all day long, and just seeing the spark that it ignites. But I do have to say, I think the most special place in my heart is our group of volunteers, our pod, as we call them. We just attract some of the best people, and you can't tell me that I'm wrong about it. We just have the most lovely group of dedicated, passionate people that come here, on their own free will, unpaid, and they stick with us, and they help us bring this mission of whales to the people of the Pacific Northwest alive. And I hope that we're here for a lot longer. And I hope it lives on way past me and into the next generation, and that we continue to inspire people. But this is my happy place.
I am so thankful to be part of the Langley Whale Center anniversary video, because I just genuinely love the Whale Center so much. I think being from the East Coast, especially Pennsylvania, you're landlocked. The closest you get to the ocean is the Jersey Shore. There's no nature, there's no green. So you always learn about whales. You think about them as like this mystical, magical creature, like they're like dragons or unicorns. Like no one ever actually sees those things. So then when I moved to Washington and volunteered at the Langley Whale Center, and I could not only be surrounded by whales, but learn about them and actually see them with my own two eyes. I mean, it genuinely changed my life. And I think a good example story for that is my very first training shift at the Langley Whale Center. I just finished the training in the morning, and I just broke for lunch, and I was just about to take my first bite, like literally like mid bite, and Katie peeks around the curtain and she goes, "You want to see a whale?" I was like, "What?" So I ran out to the Saratoga Passage, and there was a gray whale right there, maybe 20-30 feet off the shore, that was feeding, and it was there for a couple hours. I mean, I was speechless. I was emotional. On my very first day at the Whale Center, I got to see a real whale. That was the second whale I had ever seen in my life, and the first whale I'd seen as an adult. So you can tell I was speechless. It was an unbelievable experience, and it was such a sign from the whale gods that I was supposed to be at the Langley Whale Center. And every single time I volunteer there since, it's just made my day. You get to see people's faces light up when they see the size of the blue whale jawbone, or touch the otter pell, or learn a cool new fact. I mean, they just light up. And to be able to not only experience that myself, but pass the whale experience on to others, it's just such a cool feeling. And, especially in a time where things can be maybe negative or dark, and just to see that the Langley Whale Center and talking about whales can just truly bring anyone from any walk of life together. It's amazing, and I am so thankful to be a part of it, and I hope to continue volunteering for years and years to come. Happy anniversary, Whale Center!
Hi there, I'm Jeannie Hamilton. One of the first things I did when I moved to Whidbey in 2019 was to go over to the Whale Center and sign up to be a volunteer. Little did I know that it would be the beginning of many, many wonderful adventures, learning activities. I even served as the assistant manager for a while and had memories that will last a lifetime. And I congratulate you on your 10 years, and here's to many, many more. Thanks for all that you do.
Hi, my name's Bonnie Gretz. I've been volunteering for Orca Network for 12 years, from 2011 when I first moved here, so a little bit more than 12 years. It's been an absolutely wonderful experience, and I've made absolutely amazing friends, traveled with them across the world, and Orca Network gives all of us a real great sense of purpose and also the opportunity to really make a difference in what we're doing for the whales that we love so much. So welcome everybody to join us, join the pod, and thanks for the opportunity.
Hi, I'm Dan Meyer, volunteer for several years at the Langley Whale Center. I want to tell you about my two favorite things about being there. One is working with the children. As soon as they come in, they're excited to see and feel all the things about the whales, like this is what baleen really feels like. And one's like the little boy who said, do you know about, and then he described some part of the skull of the whale, and I thought, no, I had no idea what that is. He knew and went into great detail. He was 6 years old, and he wants to be a marine biologist. The other thing that I love is the adults who come in and they want to tell their whale story. So many people come in and they say, one time, and then they go on to describe how they looked into the eye of a whale from their boat or wherever they were, and it changed their lives. Whales can do that for people.
Hi, I'm Donna, and I've been volunteering at the Whale Center for 6 years now. Spending time there and engaging with people from all around the world and all around our region and even just locally is honestly one of my favorite things in life. It's a really happy place because I think whales are pretty universally loved. They're really interesting and people love learning about them. I love learning about them, and it's fun sharing knowledge and experiences with others. I've had people come in and say to me, I've lived here for 25 years and never seen a whale. And my reply to them is always the same. Then you're just not looking, because they're out there. And I tell them about our sightings network, and I show them our big whale sightings map, and hopefully start them on their own journey of seeing whales. One day I was working at the Whale Center, and a young woman from Bulgaria came in and started asking me question after question about orcas. She was completely obsessed with orcas. They're her spirit animal, and she was really passionate and emotional, and it was her absolute dream to see them swimming in the wild. And it just so happened that at that moment on that day, I knew exactly where J-Pod was, not far off a beach right here on Whidbey. And so I said to her, I really hate to cut our conversation short, but you need to get in your car and go here and you will see them. So she did. And right when she pulled up, one of J-Pod breached right in front of her, and she had a beautiful pass. And she came back and had tears in her eyes and thanked me, and we became friends. It was really special. We welcome everyone in the Whale Center and would love to talk whale with you and turn you into a whale nerd just like the rest of us. So enjoy your time here. Thanks for coming.